Did you think of the way Craig Counsell described the stakes of today's game and how athletes respond to such situations?
Part of being great at this is responding to the bad stuff and running towards it, man. That's part of this. And you can't be afraid of it. You got to look forward to it. It happens sometimes. We put ourselves in a hole this series, no question about it. We get to decide how the story ends.
So, your thoughts on how Craig answered that question?
Well, I think he's absolutely right. I think that's a very true statement. That is the honest-to-God truth, is that, you've got to embrace the position that you are in, and you got to do everything you can to change it and go after it and try to grab it by the neck. It doesn't mean you can do it, but that is the process. That is exactly right. And, the attitude that only we can decide, that is unfortunately not especially accurate, because the opponent can pretty much figure out how to stop you, and you got to deal with that too. But yeah, he is absolutely spot on about the attitude you have to have, and not just in sports, but generally in life. You kind of have to deal with everything that's going on around you, and you got to confront stuff that you don't want to deal with, and you got to be able to handle all the bad stuff that happens. And sadly, there are people that can't do that, and that really gets in your way. So it is just the harsh reality of the world, that not everything is a fairy tale and not everything works out beautifully, and that there is some messy stuff and some hard work that has to be put in, and you got to roll up your sleeve and go to work.
Great point, Mully. This is not just a baseball thing. It's a life thing, and it is hard to put the bad things to the side. It's hard to drop your bags off at the door before you go into work and whatnot. So the Cubs have one thing to do. They get through the first inning, and then they have another thing to do. Get through the second inning, right? You just have to keep, no matter what happens, if a 3-run home run is given up in the first inning, you can't be like, well, here we go again. But I want to say, I think Craig also needs to look in the mirror, because something, I don't know if we brought it up on the air. I know I brought it up off the air. Not much to like about the TBS broadcast, but I do love the camera catching Craig Counsell in his absolutely awful body language and reaction to things going bad. And how about yesterday? Probably, at least, I don't know if it was when he made this comment, but one of the times he answered a question, taking his cap off and running his hand through his hair yet again. Like, I can't believe I have to answer a question about this again. So I love what he said, but Craig, I'm sure there's a mirror in the manager's clubhouse. Take a look in it.
I don't really disagree with that, because I'd be lying if I said that I watched Craig Counsell the other night and didn't have a similar reaction to watching him. Which is why, honestly, Dustin, when I heard him yesterday, what he said, the clip we played, and it was a part of a longer conversation or response, great perspective. I thought to myself, we almost forget that Craig Counsell was a really accomplished major league player for a lot of years. And so he's a master at managing these kinds of emotions where the sky isn't falling. And this doesn't have to be the last day of the season. And there is no connection between 7 years ago and the next at bat. All those things require a perspective that I think he has based on his experience. I like it when he goes public with that kind of wisdom, because it is wisdom.
Sure.
But then I see him in the dugout, and I hear him at the press conference. He is exasperated a lot, and he doesn't really hide that. And I do wonder what effect that has on the great wise thinker who shares with us his perspective. And then all says, oh, God, I got to answer this again. And he knocks his hat off and runs his fingers through his hair. And it's quite a contrast, but I did appreciate where he's coming from. And frankly, that's the way the Cubs have to look at it today. And frankly, Cub fans have to look at it today that way. Anything can happen. You got to ignore the past, focus on now, and hope that there's tomorrow.
It's a great question.
That's the voice of Zach Saban. He'll answer great questions from Mully and Haugh at 8:25. How long do you think Jameson Taillon pitches today for the Cubs? Do you think Game 3, being an elimination game, makes it more or less likely that Taillon will go deeper into the game?
I think this is interesting because he was the 4-inning guy against the Padres. And maybe it was because of the way the bullpen lined up and the way the Padres lineup threatened the Cubs in a certain way. If Jameson Taillon is cruising through 4 today, wishful thinking, but possible, I hope he's out there for the 5th. I hope that they look at Jameson Taillon as a source of confidence, stability, and a guy that is going to rise to the occasion. And this is as big of a start as he's had this year. And I do think he will rise to the occasion. I think he gives him 5.
He's into the 5th.
Council fans. I think he can give him 15 outs. 15 outs. And then there will be 12 left. And once he gives them 15 outs, I think that Jameson Taillon will get a rousing ovation. I hope when he walks off the mound at the end of the 5th and he feels like the fans appreciate what he brings each and every start, each and every day, because this is somebody who represents the Cubs as well as anybody can. I'm a big fan of his, and I hope that he does get those 15 outs today.
Glass half full, David Haugh is back. He's here for us. I love it on game day. I think if he gets 15, David, I think the Cubs are probably in a pretty good 2 or 3 run lead at that point. I want to say I heard earlier today that his over-under for outs is 10.5. I think he gets 12.
I would go over on that.
Yeah, I would too.
Hope so.
I would hope so. I mean, if you think the Cubs are going to win, he's got to get that. He has to be able to get that. So I think that's a really interesting bet that I'm going to look for later on today. I guess my only question would be, if you're rushing to get to the next guy, who's that next guy? Because I don't know that there's been a guy that they are loving right now based on the Brewers lineup that you're rushing to get to based on how they've handled it so far. So I guess my point is, don't be in a rush. Let him, he did 4 against the Padres. I'm with you. If he's got a 2-run lead after 4 innings, don't rush. Let him try to get the 15 outs. I'm fine with that. So I think he's got at least 12, and I'm signed up for 15, but I'll say 12.
I honestly believe that he's definitely going into the 5th inning. I don't know if that would be as far as they would let him. I think he could go 6. I don't think they're going to let him. I think that they're going to want to try to get 5 innings out of him, and he will get into the 5th for sure. I think that, this is an elimination game. So if anything goes, a foul, you've got to move quickly. They can't wait around. And, they'll have an idea of who they want and how they're going to do it, and they will try to get that done. I think he's going to deliver. I do. I think he's going to do pretty well. I don't know if he's going to be perfect, but I think he'll get you into the 5th, and that will give you some life, and then hopefully they can score some runs themselves. But I think it's just the sad reality. Look at who's pitching tons of innings, who pitched a lot yesterday. It's one of these things where there's a couple of pitchers that can go a long ways, but I don't even know if their team's going to be able to go a long ways.
I wonder if the next pitcher after Taillon today is Ben Brown, because he has success against the Brewers this year, and he's not a guy that we think of. But I do. He's got to be on this roster for a reason.
Daniel Palencia would normally have been the guy you might have thought, because you figure if they're taking him out in the 5th inning, there's some trouble, and they want to get the speed in there. So I like the way you're looking at it, just a guy that has a fastball.
Velocity.
Something different.
Different from, Palencia's coming off a not-so-great outing.
That's the problem.
And you wonder if Ben Brown could bring the heat at Wrigley. And if that is your next step, if he's your reliever number 2, maybe as late as the 6th, I could live with that. He's here for a reason. Let him prove it.
What would you recommend to Craig to do today? And is today the last day of the Cubs season, or will they force a Game 4 tomorrow?
It's daunting to consider. today could be the last day of the baseball season in Chicago. And it's an opportunity for the Cubs. And I don't think Craig Counsell has any other option, as we discussed earlier. It's Jamison Taillon as a starting pitcher. So you can remove his instinct, you can take his gut out of the equation. And I think this is going to be a very easy approach for the Cubs from a starter perspective and from a lineup perspective. I don't see him tweaking anything. I think that he's probably got the mindset, listening to him yesterday, that this is baseball. This happens. You keep going back to the same people who got you to the second round of the playoffs. So my sense would be, with Quinn Priester, a right-hander out of the mound, that Kyle Tucker's batting third, Ian Happ is batting fifth, and then you have everyone else fall into their familiar roles, even if Matt Shaw hasn't gotten a hit since September 26th, for 12 days and counting. So it'd be nice for him to supply some offense. Or to even just, I mean, I know he's walking, but you need the Cubs to be pesky. You need the Cubs to grind out at bats. You need the Cubs to hit the ball out of the ballpark. It would be nice to see Michael Busch at the top of the lineup. Does that count as a tweak? Resisting the urge to play Justin Turner? That's not fair. Justin Turner doesn't play against right-handers, but they do love the guy. Today will not be the last day of the Cubs season. They will live to see another game. They will beat the Brewers. They will score more than 3 runs, and they will have a muted celebration, because all it will get you is to Game 4, and that's all that matters today.
There will be no changes. I don't expect any. But, of course, I do have a recommendation.
Recommendations are taken,
and we
yes.
came up with this one on the Fly the W podcast yesterday afternoon. Mm-hmm. David, you mentioned Kyle Tucker and working a couple of walks. Guy can barely hit the ball over the second baseman's head right now. He's got no legs. His legs are just gone.
Okay.
His legs are gone.
Uh-oh.
But because he is a professional hitter, and because you are not going to sit him down for Ballesteros, that's not going to happen.
Good.
And the Cubs need to try to improve on. Let me see if you have an appetite for this stat. You didn't have an appetite for the stats I provided earlier. Moving forward, I will not provide stats. But how about this one?
Nothing personal.
In this series, in this postseason, in 5 postseason games,
right,
the Cubs are 2 for 17 with runners in scoring position.
I think that's a valid.
So that one works. That one holds
pertinent
up.
stat. Yeah.
Okay, that one. Okay.
There's no 2018 reference.
I'll adjust your rundown in a second during the break. But we could go back to that. There is a reason why that's important, but I'll tell you during the break, and then you decide if you want to bring it up. Okay, so Kyle Tucker leads off. Nico Horner bats second, and Michael Busch bats third, because those are your arguably top 3 hitters for a team that's 2 for 17 with runners in scoring position. But Busch has the pop. Okay, so let's put some people on base in front of the guy with a little bit of pop. How about that? Now, that's, I think, big thinking.
I like that.
That's the kind of stuff you get on the Fly the W podcast, okay?
I don't know.
That's big picture thinking. Kyle Tucker in his, work a walk, professional hitter, sees some pitches. He's up at the top, followed by Nico, who has just been great at the plate. And then the guy with the pop is batting third. And then Suzuki's batting fourth. I think that's a lineup that I think maybe you should consider.
I would.
Craig, you listening? Doubtful. No shot.
Well, amid all the
and by the way, they win today and they play tomorrow. Survive in advance.
okay, so amid all the barbs and the promotions, I think you're saying they win. Is that fair?
I did. I said they win.
Okay,
They win.
just making sure we got a selection. I think the season lasts another day. I feel good about the Cubs today because they got the right pitcher on the bump. And I feel like he will not make a lot of tweaks. I feel like if they're going to win this game, it'd be more a 3-2 victory.
Grind it out.
I don't know.
Another 3-2 victory.
I think it's more of a grind.
You need a run explosion.
Get to the end of the game, maybe get a nice hit, get something done. But it just feels like with the weather and the crowd, it's just going to be kind of a real what would you call it, taffy pull of an afternoon.
Maybe.
and maybe a 3-2 victory.
Could be. That would mean that Jameson Taillon was pitching well.
Yeah.
Quinn Priester has.
He's going to pitch well.
Going to pitch well.
Yep.
And he has. They won 19 straight outings with him on the mound.
I know, but the Cubs will get a late run.
So you got the Cubs winning.
I got the Cubs.
We all got the Cubs winning.
Well, none of us want the season to end.
I know. We don't want this to end.
So,
Dustin, just for clarity, the reaction to the statistics was not directed at you.
It was directed at me because he gave it to me.
It's not directed at anybody. You guys don't.
You both received it. I think I also emailed it to you guys last night on top of including it in today's rundown, which you both received.
Can we just?
We'll tweak them. I'll give 2 separate runs down moving forward.
No. I appreciate the context. I'm trying to give you my opinion of it, which is what I'm supposed to do.
Give him the happy one. I'll take the one that's rude.
I don't. But this isn't just this time. I always hesitate, and I struggle to see connections between things that happened 7 years ago and things that are supposed to happen today.
Jed Hoyer.
Is Jed Hoyer really the reason?
Well, he puts the roster together. I mean, listen, David, I am sick and tired. The players have to wear it at some point. Okay?
Right.
I believe it or not, I'm taking the foot off the gas of Craig Counsell a little bit. It's not to the floor. But at some point, the players have to wear it. But the guy putting the roster together or helping put the roster together, going all the way back to this, is the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
They're built for their defense, right? And unfortunately, the bats have gone silent.
They are that. Yeah, guys are here.
They did not make the big moves at the trade deadline because you got to worry about not just this year, but 2032.
It's a really interesting point there that you brought up, Mully, though, about the big moves at the trade deadline, right? The biggest move at the trade deadline, and it looked like it was going to end the Cubs season a week ago, right? Mm-hmm. But it didn't work. I mean,
Mason Miller.
They beat the team that did make the big trade at the deadline.
The Brewers did basically nothing. I mean, they did less than the Cubs did.
Didn't Seattle do a lot?
They got Andrew Vaughn.
But they didn't get Andrew Vaughn. They got him before the trade deadline because why?
Yeah, because Aaron Savali talked his way out of town.
Pitched a fit.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's find another guy who's not happy. Oh, let's make it real easy. We don't have to waste a lot of gas money. Okay, boom, boom.
It was almost as if they punished Savali for talking out of turn by sending him to the worst team in baseball.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. That is punishment.
You want to start? Okay, we're going to send you to the White Sox.
So God forbid Andrew Vaughn does something today.
Technically, Colorado was the worst team.
Okay,
I'm blaming Aaron Savali.
Feel free.
You're blaming Aaron Savali?
Yeah, if Andrew Vaughn does something today, Aaron Savali's on my list. He's on my list. Get out! Out!
He's going to be DFA'd after the game.
Yeah, I don't think
if Andrew Vaughn.
That's the only reason why Andrew Vaughn is in Milwaukee now.
Well, Savali
could be somewhere else for sure. He could be in Seattle. He could be somewhere else.
You like your history, Dustin. Savali did make Major League history in Game 1.
That's right.
It's the longest stint for a relief pitcher in a playoff game, 4 1/3 innings.
And I thought that was going to save the Cubs bacon for
I know that's
Game
in my
2.
Rundown.
It didn't.
It's in my rundown.
It was the other day.
It was in your other rundown.
It was the other day. Spelt wrong, but
you should
spelt
collect
wrong,
them.
but it's there. Spelling doesn't count. It's
some
radio.
like to keep them.
I alphabetize.
I would say spelling always counts. But that's just because I was beaten.
So we all got the Cubs winning. That's good.
Nuns.
That's good.
3-1-2. Brandon's got a Cubs victory, doesn't he?
I got a Cubs victory.
All right.
That's the only reason why I'm wearing this hat. They got to win.